Speedbird 851, turn right heading 180. Order 14 Papa, turn right 245, report localizer established 27.
Hey everyone, before I get underway, if you are interested in almost instant coverage and updates on the Jet Airways crisis, I'm discussing it over on my Twitter, which is at DJ's Aviation. With that being said, Jet Airways has been in a downward spiral for months now. In fact, as many have said, it's been quite frankly one of the slowest collapses we've seen in a very long time. From suspending all international flights last week, today the airline will suspend all operations as it's failed to acquire the necessary funds to not only continue flying, but also pay the months of wages that it owes to its various pilots and also widely employees. Jet Airways, as mentioned, will today stop flying. However, the airline calls this purely a temporary suspension, as they still have the hope that they'll be flying again sooner rather than later. The sad part that the airline has not acknowledged is that history shows that once airlines announce that they're going to be suspending operations, they very rarely come back, especially with how much they have in debt. The perfect and most recent example is WOW Air, who announced that they'd be suspending operations to secure vital funding to continue flying. This was in the early hours of the morning in Iceland. They then announced a few hours later that they had permanently ceased all operations. According to sources, Jet Airways' last flight will be operated at 10:30 p.m. The airline has been forced into suspending its operations after lenders and more have all decided that they do not want to give the airline more money that they really need. Jet Airways call this type of money a lifeline, which will help keep them afloat just for now. Sadly though, this is not the first time that the airline has had to ask for money, and frankly the situation has not improved. This is where the concern is coming from the lenders and more. Jet Airways for the past few weeks have actually been asking for funds, specifically Rs 400 crore, and hopefully I did pronounce that correctly. I'm sorry if I didn't. That roughly converts to US 57 million. However, in most recent days, they've been ramping up this request as pilots and all employees continue to strike. With international flights still not operating today, over on Flight Radar, there are very few remaining aircraft flying with the airline. Jet Airways owes well over $1 billion, and that number is growing by the day. I'd like to offer my words of support to potentially any Jet Airways employees watching this video. Frankly, the way they've been treated has been harsh. Working unpaid despite any company's situation is obviously difficult, especially for these people who have to provide for themselves and their families. So while you might be happy that the airline is collapsing, just spare a thought as well for all the employees that are now likely going to be out of work. With that being said, thank you very much for tuning into another video of mine, despite the awful circumstances. I do very much look forward to you all joining me on the next one.